She joked about replacing me in front of everyone, and they laughed until I accepted the offer. That's when everything changed. Hey everyone, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me in the comments if you've ever seen someone push a joke too far. Because this story is about the moment my wife crossed a line she could never step back from. It started on one of those warm suburban Saturdays, the kind where the air smells like charcoal and every backyard hums with laughter. Our neighbors had gathered for an easygoing barbecue at our place. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky with streaks of gold, and for once, I was actually relaxed, flipping burgers, a beer in hand, chatting with the guys about football. My wife, Emily, was the life of the party as usual. She loved being the center of attention, especially after a few glasses of wine. She was standing near the patio, her laughter louder than the music, waving her glass like a performer on stage. I didn't think much of it until I heard her voice rise above the crowd. "Anyone want to trade husbands?" she called out, her tone playful but sharp. "Mine's low maintenance, comes with free sarcasm and zero ambition." The words hit like a slap. The conversation around the grill froze. I felt the eyes, the pity, the awkward glances. The air turned heavy. I saw a couple of neighbors look down at their drinks, pretending they hadn't heard. My hands tightened around the spatula, but I stayed silent. Then Megan, our recently divorced neighbor from 2 houses down, stepped forward with a smirk. "You know what?" she said, raising her beer. "I'll take him." The laughter stopped completely. My wife's grin faltered, but she tried to play it off. "Oh, come on, Meg. Don't tell me you're serious." Megan didn't blink. "Dead serious. He looks like he actually knows how to handle a grill and a conversation." My wife's laugh cracked halfway through. The shift in her expression was instant, cocky amusement melting into shock. The crowd went quiet. I could feel something inside me snap, not in rage, but in clarity. I wiped my hands, walked over, and stood next to Emily. "Well, honey," I said evenly, just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Looks like your marketing worked. Should I start packing now, or will you help me load the truck?" A ripple went through the crowd. Emily's face drained of color. "It was just a joke," she stammered, her voice cracking. I tilted my head. "Was it? Because Megan seems interested. And honestly, after that glowing review, I might be getting a pretty good deal." Megan grinned, clearly enjoying the show. "Low maintenance sounds perfect to me. Ambition's overrated anyway." A few of the husbands tried not to laugh. Some of the wives whispered behind their cups. My wife reached for my arm, her fingers trembling. "Can we talk about this privately?" "Why?" I said calmly. "You didn't mind talking about my flaws in public. What's changed?" Her eyes darted nervously around as she realized everyone was watching. Neighbors, friends, even her best friend Sarah, who looked mortified. Megan folded her arms, looking from me to Emily. "Offer still stands," she said softly. "Anytime." That was the moment I saw the first crack in my wife's confidence. She tried to smile again, but her lips trembled. The silence was brutal. She finally hissed, "We'll talk about this later." "Sure," I said. "But just so we're clear, you started this auction. Don't get mad because someone placed a bid." Gasps rippled through the group. My wife turned scarlet. I could tell she wanted to scream, but she didn't. She just grabbed her glass, downed the rest of her wine, and stormed inside, leaving everyone staring after her. I looked around and shrugged. "Anyone need another burger?" A few uneasy chuckles followed, but the tone had changed. That easy, friendly barbecue was now a battlefield that everyone would be talking about for weeks. Later, as the crowd slowly drifted out, Megan lingered near the fence. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "you handled that with class." I smiled faintly. I wasn't trying to. Just done being a punchline. "Good," she said. "You deserve better than to be someone's joke." I didn't respond. I just stood there as she walked away, the night air cooling around me, the sound of crickets filling the silence my wife had left behind. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. When the last neighbor left, the yard looked like a war zone of empty plates, half-finished drinks, and the faint scent of smoke hanging in the air. I stood by the grill, quietly stacking the chairs, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Inside, I could hear cupboards slamming, my wife's heels clicking furiously across the tile floor. I didn't rush to follow her. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the urge to fix things, to smooth over her temper, or pretend it didn't happen. Eventually, I walked inside. Emily was standing in the kitchen, arms crossed, face flushed, breathing fast. "What the hell was that back there?" she demanded. I set the tongs on the counter and looked at her. "That," I said slowly, "was me responding to public humiliation with public honesty." She blinked, taken aback. "It was a joke, David. Everyone knew that." "Funny," I said. I must have missed the part where everyone was laughing. She scoffed and grabbed a glass from the counter. "You embarrassed me in front of our neighbors." I stared at her for a long second. "I embarrassed you? You stood up in front of everyone we know and called me unambitious and low maintenance like you were auctioning off used furniture. And I'm the one who embarrassed you." She slammed the glass into the sink, the sound sharp enough to make me flinch. "You could have laughed it off, but no, you had to turn it into some kind of performance." I leaned against the counter, feeling the anger rise but keeping my voice calm. "You've been making jokes like that for years, Em. I let them slide because I thought you were just being playful. But tonight, you made it clear that's what you really think of me." She turned away, muttering something about people taking things too seriously. I shook my head. "You didn't expect someone to call your bluff, did you? You thought everyone would laugh, and I'd just smile through it like I always do." She spun around, eyes blazing. "Oh, please, you're acting like some kind of victim. I was trying to be funny." "You were trying to be cruel," I said. "There's a difference." Silence filled the room. She looked at me, shocked, maybe because I'd never spoken to her like that before. Finally, she said quietly, "So what now? You going to run off with the divorced neighbor?" "No," I said. "I'm going to stop pretending this marriage is something it's not." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're being dramatic." "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'm being honest." I walked past her to the living room, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and sat down on the couch. She followed me, pacing behind the sofa like a restless cat. "You're really going to let one stupid joke ruin everything?" "It wasn't one joke," I said without looking at her. "It was years of them. Tonight just made me realize I've been living with someone who doesn't even respect me." "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "You know I love you. Do you?" I turned to face her. "Because love doesn't sound like what you said out there." She froze. For a moment, her face softened, guilt flickering in her eyes, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "You're twisting things," she muttered. "No," I said, standing up. For once, I'm hearing them clearly. I started walking toward the stairs. "Where are you going?" she asked sharply. "To bed." "We're not done talking." "Yeah," I said over my shoulder. "We are." I slept in the guest room that night for the first time since we'd moved in together. I expected anger, shouting, maybe even tears. But instead, there was silence. The kind that presses down on you, heavy and cold. The next morning, I woke to the smell of bacon and coffee. When I came downstairs, Emily was in the kitchen wearing her best apron, smiling like nothing had happened. "Morning," she said brightly. "I made your favorite breakfast." I stared at her. "What's the occasion?" "Can a wife not make breakfast for her husband?" she asked sweetly. "This wife can," I said. "The question is why." Her smile faltered. "I thought we could talk about yesterday." "What's left to talk about?" I sat down and took a sip of coffee. "You humiliated me. I called you out, and now you're pretending everything's fine." She put a plate of food in front of me. Eggs perfectly cooked, bacon crispy, toast buttered just right. It would have looked like a picture of domestic peace if not for the tension buzzing between us. "Maybe I had too much to drink," she said finally. "Maybe I said things I didn't mean." "No," I said softly. "That's exactly what you meant. The only difference is you said it out loud this time." She flushed and looked down. "That's not fair, isn't it?" I asked. "When was the last time you said something nice about me to anyone?" She didn't answer. "Exactly," I said. "But you never miss a chance to point out what you think is wrong with me." The doorbell rang before she could respond. Through the window, I saw Megan standing there holding a coffee mug. Emily stiffened instantly. "Don't answer it." I ignored her and opened the door. "Morning," I said. Megan smiled. "Hey, sorry to bother you. I ran out of sugar." I chuckled. "Of course. Come on in." Emily appeared in the doorway, her smile tight enough to crack glass. "Oh, Megan, how nice to see you." "Morning, Emily," Megan said cheerfully. "Hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," I said, pouring her a cup of coffee. "We were just having breakfast." Emily's voice dropped a note colder. "Actually, we were having a private conversation." "Were we?" I asked, handing Megan the mug. "Because I thought that ended last night." Megan's eyes sparkled with amusement. Oh, this sounds interesting. Emily glared at both of us. We're done talking about last night. Are we? Megan asked. Because I've been thinking about it all morning. And I have to say, your offer's still tempting. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily's fake smile vanished, replaced by fury barely held in check. That was a joke, she said through clenched teeth. Was it funny? Megan asked sweetly, echoing my words from the night before. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Emily slammed her hand on the counter. Stop this right now. Why? I asked. Seems like a fair discussion to me. After all, you brought it up in front of everyone. Emily turned to Megan. You need to leave. Megan smiled. When I get my sugar. Emily looked like she was about to explode, but she said nothing as I handed Megan a small jar from the pantry. Megan took it, gave me a knowing look, and said, Thanks, David. Oh, and breakfast smells great. Maybe next time I'll join you. Then she walked out, leaving my wife shaking with fury. When the door closed, Emily spun on me. You are not going to talk to her again. I raised an eyebrow. And why not? Because she's trying to cause problems. I laughed. No, Emily. You already did that yourself. She stood there gripping the counter like she was afraid the ground might collapse beneath her. You think this is funny? She hissed. You're humiliating me all over again. I leaned against the table and met her eyes. I'm not humiliating you, Emily. I'm just not protecting you from your own behavior anymore. She looked away, jaw tight, voice trembling. You don't get to turn this around on me. You let that woman flirt with you right in front of me. I took a slow breath. You started it. You turned me into a public punchline, remember? All Megan did was point out that you don't appreciate what you have. You're delusional, she snapped. She's just a lonely divorcee trying to steal attention. And what are you? I asked quietly. Because from where I'm standing, you've spent years craving attention from everyone except your own husband. Her face drained of color. That's not true. It's exactly true, I said. You light up when people laugh at your jokes, even when those jokes are about me. You like the performance, the spotlight, the control. But when someone pushes back, suddenly, I'm the villain. She grabbed her wine glass from the counter, though it was barely 10 in the morning. You're twisting this into something it's not. No, I said. I'm finally seeing it for what it is. She stared at me, lips pressed together, eyes glassy. Then, as if deciding to reclaim the upper hand, she said, You've changed. You used to be easygoing. Now you're spiteful. I almost laughed. No, Emily. I'm just done being your doormat. I walked to the living room, the floor creaking under my steps. She followed, her voice rising with every word. So what now? You're going to play the victim? Let the neighbors think I'm the monster. I turned to face her. I don't have to do anything. You did that yourself. She opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I glanced at the screen. Megan. Just a short text. Hope you're holding up. Don't let her twist it. You did nothing wrong. I didn't even reply, but Emily saw my expression change. Who is that? She asked. I didn't answer. She stormed over, grabbed the phone, and read the name. Unbelievable, she muttered. Delete it. Excuse me. Delete the message. Block her number. Why would I do that? Because I'm your wife. I looked at her, calm but cold. The same wife who tried to give me away yesterday. Her breath caught. That was different. I was just joking. So is she, I said evenly. What's the problem? She set my phone down with shaking hands. You can't seriously be entertaining this. She's playing you. Maybe, I said. Or maybe she's just treating me with basic respect. Something you seem to have forgotten how to do. She laughed bitterly. Respect? You think she respects you? She barely knows you. Maybe that's the point, I said. She doesn't know me, and she still treats me better than you do after 8 years. That one hit hard. I saw it in her eyes. For a moment, she looked like she might cry, but instead she whispered, You don't mean that. I do, I said quietly. And you know it. The room went silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. She finally sat down on the couch, her voice small. I don't understand what you want from me. I sat across from her. I want honesty. I want respect. I want you to stop treating me like I'm some failed project you have to fix. You're being cruel, she said. You're the one who stood in front of 20 people and told them your husband has no ambition. I'm just holding up the mirror. You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? I asked. Then answer me this. When was the last time you said something good about me? Something real. Not because you needed something, not because you were drunk, just because you meant it. She didn't answer. I leaned forward. You can't even remember, can you? She buried her face in her hands. I didn't mean to hurt you. You did. And the worst part is you only care now because you got embarrassed. She looked up at me, her mascara smudged, her voice breaking. I love you. I shook my head slowly. You love the idea of me. You love the security, the house, the convenience. But you don't love me. That's not true. It is, I said. You know how I can tell? Because real love doesn't humiliate. It doesn't tear someone down in front of an audience and call it humor. She stood up, trembling. You're not leaving me over this. I'm not leaving, I said. I'm just done playing your game. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not covering for you anymore. When people ask what happened at that barbecue, I'm going to tell them the truth. Her eyes widened. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I started walking toward the stairs again. David, stop, she said, her voice desperate now. We can fix this. We'll talk to someone, go to counseling. I paused and looked back at her. You can't fix something you refuse to admit is broken. She didn't follow me this time. I went upstairs, closed the door behind me, and for the first time in years, I slept soundly. The next few days were a strange kind of quiet. Emily tried to act normal, cooking dinner, smiling too wide, asking about my day like nothing had happened. I answered politely, but without warmth. Every word between us felt rehearsed, hollow. On the third morning, the doorbell rang again. Emily froze, spatula in hand, her expression already sour. If that's her again, I swear. I opened the door before she could finish. Megan was standing there with a container of muffins and a polite smile. Morning, she said. I baked too much. Thought you might like some. I took the container. Thanks. Smells great. Glad you think so, she said. Hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all, I said. Just breakfast. Emily appeared behind me, her voice dripping with sugar. Oh, Megan, how thoughtful. You must really enjoy popping by uninvited. Megan smiled back, unbothered. Just being neighborly. Right, Emily said. Well, thanks for the muffins. We'll enjoy them later. Actually, I said, we were just making coffee. You're welcome to join us. Emily shot me a glare sharp enough to cut glass, but Megan smiled. I'd love to. We sat at the table, and within minutes the conversation turned into another battleground. Emily kept trying to steer it toward small talk, but Megan had other plans. So, she said lightly, have you two recovered from the barbecue fiasco? Emily's fork froze midair. Excuse me. Megan shrugged. Just saying, that was quite the show. You've got guts, David, standing up for yourself like that. Most men wouldn't. Emily's jaw tightened. It was a misunderstanding. Oh, Megan smiled. Because it sounded pretty clear to me. The tension at that table was thick enough to choke on, and I knew, deep down, that the truth was finally starting to surface. Emily's hand was shaking slightly as she set her fork down. You know what, Megan, I think you've said enough. Megan leaned back in her chair, calm and collected. Oh, I haven't even started, she said softly. You're criticizing your husband for not being ambitious enough, but you've been between jobs for what, over a year now? Emily's face went pale. That's none of your business. You made it everyone's business when you started treating him like a joke in public, Megan replied. I stayed silent, watching the two of them like a referee who already knew which side would win. Emily turned to me, desperate. Are you just going to let her talk to me like that? I looked at her for a long moment before saying, you didn't seem to mind when you talked about me the same way. She opened her mouth, then shut it again, eyes darting to Megan. You think you're so perfect, don't you? You don't even have a husband. Megan smiled faintly. Not yet. The words hit the room like a spark in dry grass. Emily shot up from her chair. Get out, she shouted. Megan rose slowly, her voice calm, but razor sharp. You really should ask yourself why you're so angry. Is it because you insulted your husband and he finally stood up for himself? Or because you realize you might actually lose him? Emily glared at her, breathing hard. You think he'd ever choose you? Megan didn't flinch. No, she said, but I think he'll choose peace. And that's something you've never given him. Emily turned toward me, eyes blazing. Tell her to leave. I met her gaze and said quietly, she can stay as long as she wants. That was the final crack. Emily's voice dropped to a low, trembling whisper. You're out of your mind. No, I said, standing up. I'm finally thinking clearly. Megan gave me a small nod and gathered her things. I'll go, she said softly. I don't want to make this harder than it already is. You're not making it hard, I said. You're just telling the truth. When she left, Emily slammed the door so hard the picture frames rattled. You're throwing away everything for some woman who barely knows you, she screamed. I looked at her calmly. I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that the moment you decided I wasn't worth respecting. Her face twisted in frustration. You can't just end a marriage over one argument. It wasn't one argument, I said. It was years of you belittling me, mocking me, turning me into a joke every chance you got. Last week it was about my job. Before that it was my car. Before that it was how I mow the lawn. It's always something. You're exaggerating, she said, voice shaking. No, I replied. I've just stopped pretending it doesn't hurt. She started pacing, muttering half-formed words that didn't make sense. Then, without warning, she dropped into a chair and buried her face in her hands. I can change, she whispered. I can fix this. I sighed. Emily, you've been saying that for years. Every time we fight, you cry, promise to change, and go right back to the same thing. Not this time, she said, looking up at me, tears streaking her face. I'll prove it. I'll get a job. I'll stop drinking so much. I'll be better. I wanted to believe her, I really did, but there was something hollow in her words. They sounded rehearsed, like an apology she'd used too many times. I don't want promises anymore, I said finally. I want peace. So what? You're just going to leave? She asked, her voice breaking. I'm not leaving, I said, but I'm done living like this. That night, I slept in the guest room again. The house felt colder, quieter, but for once, my chest didn't feel heavy. The next morning, she tried again, fresh coffee, soft music, pretending everything was normal. I didn't play along. By the third day, she gave up the act. You're really serious about this, aren't you? She asked. Yeah, I said. I am. So that's it, she whispered. 8 years down the drain. No, I said. 8 years were the lesson. The rest is what I do with it. The silence that followed was long and heavy. Then she said something that caught me off guard. You'll regret this. I looked at her, calm but steady. The only thing I regret is waiting this long. I helped her pack her things that weekend. She cried, begged, tried to guilt me, but I stayed firm. When she finally left, the house felt empty, but not in a bad way. It felt clean, still, quiet. A week later, I was in the backyard again, the same spot where everything had started. I was grilling burgers, just like before, but this time Megan was there, helping slice tomatoes and laughing about something trivial. The tension that used to hang in the air was gone. For the first time in years, I wasn't pretending to be happy. I actually was. You holding up okay? She asked. Better than I thought I would, I said honestly. Good, she replied. You deserve that. I smiled. You know what's funny? She thought that barbecue would make her look good. Instead, it showed me exactly what I'd been living with. Megan nodded. Sometimes it takes the worst moment to see the truth. The sun dipped low, warm light spreading across the yard. I felt lighter, free. A few days later, Emily came by one last time. She looked tired, eyes red, hair messy. I got a job, she said. I'm trying. I'm glad, I said. You should have done that years ago. Can we talk? There's nothing left to talk about. Please, she whispered, voice cracking. It was just one mistake. It wasn't one, I said softly. It was a pattern, and I'm done repeating it. She started crying again, begging me to reconsider, but I'd already made peace with my decision. Take care of yourself, I said and closed the door. When I turned around, Megan was standing at the kitchen counter, pouring coffee, watching me quietly. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I said. For the first time in a long time. She smiled. Good. You finally stopped apologizing for wanting to be happy. Yeah, I said. Guess I have. Later that evening, we sat outside as the sun disappeared behind the trees, a quiet breeze moving through the yard. Megan laughed at something small, and for a moment, I realized that this peace, this calm, was what love was supposed to feel like. Not a war, not a performance, not a constant struggle for approval. Just simple, steady peace. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes, the biggest victories come from finally walking away.